What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WrestleRant, where every single Tuesday I, Graham GSM Matthews, break down all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network as well as on the Global Wrestling Network. And ahead of NXT TakeOver Chicago next Saturday, today here on WrestleRant, we're talking last year's installment of NXT TakeOver Chicago. Now, this year's is also called TakeOver Chicago. They're not calling it as far as I know, NXT TakeOver Chicago 2. They're also just calling it TakeOver Chicago. And in the past, they've called it like TakeOver Brooklyn 2, TakeOver Brooklyn 3. So I'm not sure why they're not calling it TakeOver Chicago 2 to kind of differentiate the two events. But nonetheless, don't be surprised. I mean, I can't review this year's installment. It hasn't fucking happened yet. So don't be confused here. This one is talking NXT TakeOver Chicago from May of 2017. Now, fun fact for you. This show aired the day I graduated from college. One of the greatest days of my life. Crazy, though. Fucking crazy. Woke up super early, got my diploma, fucking did the graduation shit, obviously. Went out to dinner with my family right after that. Had to go back to my dorm right before that to pack up all my shit out of my dorm. Stayed at a hotel that night before driving home the next morning for my sister's dance recital. But that night, I was watching TakeOver on my phone because the car was packed up with all my shit. So, and my laptop was like buried underneath everything. So I couldn't use it. So I had my phone. I just used my phone to watch TakeOver in my hotel room bed that night. So it was pretty insane, but I was so happy I watched the show live because this was a great show, which makes me excited to be in attendance for this year's show in Chicago. That was really part of the reason why I wanted to go this year, was because I know last year's TakeOver Chicago show was so great, and Money in the Bank is always fun too, so it should be a great weekend when I'm there in 2 weeks. Or next weekend, whatever. It's coming up quickly. But anyway, to kick off this show, we had Roderick Strong taking on Eric Young. A match that really kind of came out of nowhere. Roderick Strong was targeting the NXT Championship right before this. He did lose a number one contenders match to Hideo Itami on an episode of NXT right before this, and then afterward he was attacked by Sanity that set up this matchup. But Strong really picked up a lot of momentum between this show and the previous TakeOver in Orlando about a month and a half earlier. Like in literally like a month and a half's time, he went from being just another guy on the roster to having this great redemption story. The two-part focus story, the highlight package they did on Strong, I think in like late April, was fucking fantastic and really made you want to rally behind the guy and see him succeed. And it was very obvious people saw that story, the two-part package they put together on Strong, because of the reaction he got here. When his music hit, he got a very big reaction, easily the biggest reaction that he had ever gotten in NXT up to that point. Even bigger than when he debuted in NXT as a surprise partner for Austin Aries in late 2016. He got a big reaction here in Chicago, and obviously he has history there, being with Ring of Honor for so long, and Chicago is a wrestling city. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. So he had a great story here. Even before the match began, he was working wisely. When his music hit, he didn't come out, and we're thinking maybe Sanity attacked him, like Eric Young's already in the ring. And then the other members of Sanity, with the exception of Nikki Cross, are around ringside. Roderick Strong comes out from the crowd, attacks Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf, lays him out early, and they continue to interfere throughout the match, but he thwarted their interference then as well. So it was basically one-on-one between Young and Strong. No interference, no bullshit. We got a pretty good matchup, like a very good matchup here. Easily my favorite Eric Young match in NXT up to this point. They worked very well together, a lot of good stuff. The crowd was behind Strong and ended up winning. He ended up winning clean with his finisher, where the crowd popped big for. So really enjoyed this match. Strong picking up the victory to further his momentum as he set his sights on the NXT Championship. So the perfect match to open the evening with. Then after that, we had what many will call the match of the year for WWE, NXT, whatever, in 2017. And I will full-on agree with you on that, with Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate, the defending champion, for the WWE United Kingdom Championship. Now, this was a rematch from the finals of the UK title tourney back in January. Tyler Bate won that night, of course. Pete Dunne became the number one contender soon before this show. And this was a match that really wasn't built up all that much. Not that it wasn't built up well, it just wasn't built up like really at all on TV leading up to the show. Now, they had their confrontation on that UK special they taped in the UK that aired, I think, like the day before this takeover on the Friday, which was good. But beyond that, though, I mean, they really didn't have much momentum behind this matchup. And you can kind of tell, I mean, they both got good reactions when they came out because people recognize talent. They know Pete Dunne, they know Tyler Bate, they remembered them from the UK title tourney if they don't follow them in Progress and all these other promotions. But it really wasn't until the match got started that people got into this shit like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, holy shit, these guys are good. This was outstanding. And it was only 15 minutes long. That's really what blew my mind. I thought this was a lot longer than it actually was. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. I mean that as, usually when you see instant classics like this one, you think it's got to be at least 20 minutes or 25 minutes. No, it was only 15. And it could have gone longer, but the match, for what it was in the time they were given, was fucking perfect. I have never seen an airplane spin get as loud of a reaction as it did in this match when Bate did it on Dunne. It was phenomenal. The whole thing was amazing. The crowd, at multiple points, not only at one point, but multiple points during this match, stood up and gave both men a standing ovation. It was amazing. It was incredible. What an environment to watch on TV. I just wish I could have been there, and I hope to be a part of something similar when I go to TakeOver Chicago this year for Velveteen Dream and Ricochet. I feel like that match will be a lot similar to this one, where I think people know going in that it's going to be amazing. But in terms of a reaction, but yeah, this was a lot of fun. Both guys pulling everything out of their respective arsenals to put the other away. Ultimately, it was Tyler Bate going to the outside of the ring, taking a risk, flying through the ropes, Dunne dodging him like a bullet. Bate goes face first onto the floor. Dunne throws him back in the ring. The Bruiserweight hits his finisher for the 1-2-3 and becomes the new WWE United Kingdom Champion. And as of this recording, he still is the WWE United Kingdom Champion. I know he is not on TV every single week, but Dunne's had a lot of title defenses over the last year, so it's not like he's probably had more title defenses than fucking Brock Lesnar, let's face it. Dunne has had a lot of great matches as champion. Is the best possible fit for that title. I know he will be defending it at that upcoming Wembley show, which I assume he's going to lose it there to whoever wins the upcoming UK title tourney part 2. But he's had a great run with matches against Wolfgang, Mark Andrews, Jack Gallagher maybe? I'm not sure if they had a match, but I know he also faced Tyler Bate in a rematch on that episode of NXT in late 2017. I think it was like one of the final few episodes of the year, which was phenomenal. Not as good as this match, but it was close. What else? He's had matches with Adam Cole, with Roderick Strong, which was really, really good. Yeah, Pete Dunne has been a fucking revelation over the last year, and this was his breakout performance. Now, people took notice of him during the first UK title tourney, but this match really put both men on the map. This was amazing. We also had Jim Ross on the call, too, which was cool, because him and Nigel McGuinness called the UK special on the network, so they brought in Jim Ross to replace Tom Phillips and Percy Watson for this match, which was cool. But yeah, no, this was real good. Amazing stuff. Easily the best thing on the entire show, and dare I say the best match of the entire year in this entire company. After that, for the NXT Women's Championship. Now, I believe this was the first time the NXT Women's title did not go on second to last or in the main event. I think this marked the first time that ever happened. And rightfully so, because the NXT Championship did not main event this show, so it had to go on fifth. And they've kind of broken their rule with this in the past now, after this, where the NXT Women's title match does not go on second to last. And when TakeOver's done that in the past, it's meant as a sign of respect, because the women have always stole the show pretty much in every TakeOver they've been a part of. This show, that was not the case. This was a good match, easily the weakest of the entire show. Not to say it was a bad match, but it was weaker than everything else. It was Asuka defending her championship in a triple threat against Nikki Cross and Ruby Riott. Now, it was supposed to be a four-way with Ember Moon. Ember Moon got hurt. I'm still not sure if that was a work or if it was real. I have no idea, because it seemed to work out perfectly with Ember Moon coming back in time for TakeOver Brooklyn 3 and then facing Asuka there, which was another amazing match, and I'll talk about that in a few months. But no, yeah, this was really, really good. It was pretty good. Not as good as everything else, but it was pretty good. Everyone got their moment. Felt like it went a little too short, and you knew the title wasn't really in jeopardy because you knew Ember Moon was coming back for that belt. So Asuka winning was never really in doubt, and she's also faced greater odds as well, in the form of the iconic duo of Nikki Cross at TakeOver. I think it was San Antonio. Like, 2 months before this. So she had a 4-way that she won. This one's a triple threat. So you knew she wasn't going to lose. But it was a good match. All 3 women had their moment to shine. The crowd wasn't super hot into this just because they were burnt out from the previous match. But it was good. Asuka winning as she should have. After that, as noted for the NXT Championship, Bobby Roode defending against Hideo Itami. Now, this was Itami's first takeover since... God. Well, I mean, I know he was at TakeOver Brooklyn too. He didn't wrestle, but he did come out and hit Austin Aries with his first televised GTS in NXT, which was amazing. I was there for that. That got a great reaction. But his first match on a TakeOver, I think, because he was supposed to be a TakeOver Unstoppable, and he got hurt that night for the first time, or like right before that, so he couldn't wrestle that night. I think since TakeOver Arrival. Since February of 2015. So for the first time in over 2 years, Itami's back on TakeOver. And it was weird. I mean, Roode got a much bigger reaction than Itami. I think people were happy to see Itami back from injury, and he had this redemption story. I kind of figured he wouldn't win. I'm glad he didn't win. I just didn't think the timing was right. They were in Chicago, obviously the home of CM Punk, who made the GTS famous, although it was Itami's move originally. I don't know. Itami really didn't have much buzz here. I mean, I think he's been a lot better off as a heel on 205 Live and before that in NXT after this match, and the losses were what kind of pushed him over the edge on NXT. But I don't know. I mean, it was a great match. I just did not think Itami was as revered as he should have been. But again, I think it worked with the story of the match because he turned heel right afterward anyway. But no, Bobby Roode was the big fan favorite here, although he portrayed the heel. They had a great match. Hideo Itami did hit the GTS at one point. I mean, that was the whole story of the match. Can he hit the GTS? He did, but Roode rolled out of the ring, so he couldn't cover him. Roode hit his finisher, and Itami kicked out to a good near fall. He hit it again, then rolled through and hit it for a third time. So he did beat Itami clean, which was a big win for Roode. I thought this was a real entertaining match. I really, really liked this. I thought the layout was strong. The crowd was into it. Again, not really being behind Itami to win the title. I mean, not everyone was flat for Itami, but again, for a guy that was coming back from injury, you would think that he would have gotten a bigger reaction than he did. But I don't know. The Itami story's been kind of sad to see. The guy got hurt twice, never won the NXT Championship as he had promised. And then he got called up to 205 Live, and he hasn't done too much of note there either, which is a shame. But I don't know. I did think this was a great match, though, with the right person going over. And then we get to the main event for the NXT Tag Team Championship in a ladder match. The defending champions, the Authors of Pain, taking on DIY's Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Of course, should go without saying, Gargano and Ciampa were right at home in the ladder match. This was great. I thought it told an awesome story. They worked from behind the entire match, hope spot after hope spot, doing some crazy ass shit, jumping off ladders to put the Authors of Pain through ladders. The crowd was white hot for this. DIY was such an amazing tag team. Even better rivals, but as a tag team, these guys were unreal. And the Authors of Pain really came through in their series of matches with DIY. I know there was some question about putting the belts on them when they did back in January of that year. It's like, are these guys ready? Are they really that good? Oh, they are. The Authors of Pain really got over as a great tag team in NXT. The first match was good. The triple threat over WrestleMania weekend was outstanding, and this was equally excellent. It was not a DIY showcase here. The Authors of Pain had an equally impressive performance on this show. So yeah, I really love this match. The story was great. The action was great. Had enough memorable moments to keep people on the edge of their seats. The whole thing with so like one spot, like this one moment right here, when Tommaso Ciampa was about to have his head knocked off with the ladder by the Authors of Pain, Johnny Gargano jumped in the way and sacrificed himself to save Ciampa, which was a great emotional moment. It's like, holy shit, why would he do that? I feel so bad, blah, blah, blah. Ciampa battles back. I think this was the match where he got hurt, and which is why he was out for so long, but you could never fucking tell. The guy, you would never be able to tell that he got hurt here because he never sold a thing. I mean, they were selling that they were hurt, but not that he was injured. You know, I did not realize that this was the match where Ciampa got hurt. But anyway, this was, I mean, actually, I'm not really sure. I know he got hurt before this because I remember there were rumors. I think he got hurt like the night before or something like that. Because I know there were rumors of Ciampa potentially being replaced, or maybe like the week before, in the ladder match with like Oni Lorcan. It's like, they're not going to fucking replace one bald dude with another bald dude. Like, don't be silly. So he might have gotten hurt before this. He might have exaggerated the injury in this matchup. That might have been what it was. But I love this a lot. So this was great. They got a lot of great time. In the end, the Authors of Pain emerged victorious, still the NXT Tag Team Champions. And I assume that they closed the show because they were closing out with DIY regaining the gold. Now, they had lost in San Antonio. They lost in Orlando. I thought this was their moment to become champions for a second time. But no. So I was surprised when Authors of Pain won, because I really did think the babyfaces were getting the belts back here. And I'm like, then why would they close the show with that? It was a great match, but why close the show with it? And it became clear soon after that they closed the show with it, because as the show was going off the air, they put up the fucking logo in the corner and everything. A lot like with TakeOver or Evolution back in 2014, when they put up the logo in the corner of the screen with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and then after it went off the screen and you thought the show was over, bam! Owens turns on Sami Zayn. Same thing here. Ciampa and Gargano are holding each other at the top of the stage. Ciampa looks at Gargano, and I couldn't make it out in the moment, but we have since heard what Ciampa was saying, because he has since said it in promos and stuff. Ciampa looked at Johnny with this weird look, like this intense look, saying, "This is my moment." And Johnny's like, "What?" And then, like, this all happens within a matter of a second. So then Ciampa just takes his head and drills it right into the stage wall. And the crowd has this amazing, like, what the fuck reaction. Like, we all knew it was going to happen eventually, but not here. The timing was perfect. No one was expecting it. Led to an amazing reaction. Ciampa proceeds to beat the living shit out of Johnny Gargano. This was a lot of fucking fun. This was amazing. A fantastic angle that got the crowd behind Johnny, broke the hearts of everyone around the world. I love DIY so much, and made Ciampa the most hated person in all of NXT. And then he got hurt, and he was, had taken time off, but it blew off in epic fashion at TakeOver New Orleans a couple months ago. Now they're having a rematch at Chicago this year, which is why I think it's so fitting I review this show, because they're having the Chicago Street Fight next Saturday, which should also be amazing. But yeah, this was great. This was a great match, a great way to close the show. And as always, TakeOver does an amazing job of making you feel satisfied with the end result of the show, but also making you look forward to what's next. Now that DIY is broken up, what's next for Johnny Gargano? What's next for Tommaso Ciampa? After losing the NXT title match, what's next for Hideo Itami? Pete Dunne, new UK champion. What's next for Tyler Bate? Great match. Who else can step up to Asuka? What's next? So they leave you asking what's next, but also like, holy shit, that was a hell of a show. And the crowd was great too. I mean, they were in Chicago. They were in Chicago the next night for Backlash, and that show was like, meh. So I can't always say the Chicago shows are amazing, because Backlash the next night was fucking mediocre as hell. Not terrible, but it was decent at best. This show, though, stole the weekend. This was amazing. So definitely check it out on the WWE Network. NXT TakeOver Chicago. So hopefully this one coming up is called TakeOver Chicago 2, so they're not to be confused with one another. But this was a great show. Any one match to watch, it would be Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. But again, a lot like with every other TakeOver, the entire show is worth going out of your way to watch. TakeOver Chicago for May 20th, 2017. So I'm looking forward to this year's installment. It should be great. I cannot wait to be there. I think I'm going to 3 takeovers this year, which is fucking crazy. I've been to, let's see now, I've been to TakeOver Brooklyn 1, TakeOver Brooklyn 2. I went to WrestleMania Weekend 1 in Orlando last year. So that's 3 takeovers, I think. Then I was at TakeOver Philly. Didn't go to WrestleMania this year, so I was not at TakeOver New Orleans. But I am going to the one next Saturday, which will be my 5th takeover. And then I already have my tickets lined up for TakeOver Brooklyn 4, I think. So I'm going to 3 takeovers in the same year, which is crazy. But NXT, it's hard to turn down when they're here on the East Coast. And they're going to be in Chicago, but I thought it'd be a great vacation to take in the middle of June for Money in the Bank weekend. So it should be awesome. I'll talk all about that in a year's time. My retrospective review of TakeOver Chicago 2, 1 year from today, here on the channel. Or around this time next year. But anyway, guys, thank you for checking out my review of NXT TakeOver Chicago here on WrestleRant. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. We will be back next Tuesday with another edition of WrestleRant, this time reviewing Money in the Bank 2017. ahead of my experience in Money in the Bank 2018 next weekend. So anyway, guys, have an amazing rest of your week. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.